what I do know is that life is short and it's beautiful and it's so amazing. And if you take care of it, if you treat it well, it will treat you well in return. Hey, for kids growing up, you deal with all kinds of things. And you don't realize that you can talk to your parents about things that make you question things. Like depression was a huge thing in my life, and I didn't even know it existed. I was such a pessimistic kid growing up. It was so easy to just say, like, I hate my life. Like, this is just the worst thing ever. And in all honesty, like, I would just constantly question whether just being alive or not was a thing. At a young age, I tried to end it all, you know? And I later would talk to my family about it too. But it was something during those moments was like an awakening for me. And it was almost like a hand coming in and just kind of saying, like, you have so much to give to this world, you don't realize how amazing you are.
Welcome back to another episode of the Mile 40 podcast. Thank you all for continuing to tune in, week out. These guests get to be more and more incredible. Their stories are touching the audience in every which way, and I'm just so grateful for you all to continue to tune in. A couple quick housekeeping items. If you haven't already, there is a discount code in the show notes. If you want to pick up a copy of Break Barriers or Audacious, go check it out. That discount code is especially for you guys, the listeners. In addition, if you haven't, please go ahead to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts, make sure to hit subscribe. Today's guest is a very special guest. Julian Devine, aka JD, is a jack of all trades. After building his professional career as a dancer in New York City, he took his liking to fighting and trained with some of the best fighters in the business. With a fight under his belt, he challenged himself further by becoming an accredited coach through the boutique and personal training world. From there, he elevated to training celebrities and professional athletes out of the one and only Strength Club in New York City. Now, I know Kenny Santucci was a previous guest on the show. If you guys haven't, go check out that episode, and we talk all about the Strength Club there. Julian, thank you for joining me, my friend.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Of course. I'm excited to dive in today. And what I love about you coming on the show is it's been a culmination of a bunch of other guests who have come on the show already. And through this network that you're very well tapped into and that one after the other, people have been like, you got to bring this person on. You got to bring this person on. And Matt Shandell said, you got to bring Julian on. And so I'm just happy that we brought you on. And I'm excited to kick things off. We're going to build up to where you are today. But what I really want to do is kind of give some people some background around who you are. I know prior to the show, you told me you grew up in Minnesota. Is that right?
That's correct. Apple Valley, Minnesota.
All right. So tell us a little bit about childhood and life as a youngster in Minnesota.
Childhood, with my family, my father is military. So he's served in the Army Reserve for 30 plus years, recently retired. It was a very militaristic household that I grew up in. So, which in all honesty, I grew up to basically become like the perfect soldier in my father's eyes, which was great. The discipline that I learned from that, and also just kind of him being just a very hard, stern individual on me is what made me kind of the seasoned person that I am. So I'm 34 years old in Minnesota. I was an athlete in a lot of departments. So from soccer to tennis. Tennis was my main thing. I love tennis so much. I was doing cross country. I was bad at basketball, but I love basketball too, and a little bit of football. But from there, I actually kind of came across some things that stood out to me, and that was the arts community that my high school had. And what was interesting about it was it wasn't really at the time where for a guy or a man to be a straight male to be kind of in that department, it was kind of uncommon. Still is, but when I got into it, I realized that there was like I actually see myself kind of doing this more and more. So I got involved in it's called tech, where you help build the sets. So I was staying after school, building sets, and I was trying to just like get involved as much as I possibly could. And I came across acting, singing, dancing. It was more of like, it wasn't like technical dancing for me. It was more of like I'd see it and I'd start doing it right away because I actually really, I just, I just grasped it immediately. Um, from there, I graduated high school. I went over to a college called Minnesota State Mankato, and I stayed there for a year. And that's where, listen, like I am no perfect individual, okay? And I'll always keep it. I always like to, whenever I work with anybody or train with anyone or with my friends as well, one of my core values is transparency. And I feel like transparency and truth is just truly the a valuable gift that you can give to others, even if it's something that makes you a little uncomfortable. With college, like any setting, you can get around the wrong, let's just say wrong and tempting things. So there was definitely things that kind of took over, like alcohol and drugs. With that, I was still like trying to get through college, but it ended up kind of being a bust year one. Um, and it's I'm a deep individual too, Bishoy. So we're gonna dive into it. All
Let's
right.
dive in. I got questions already. Let's dive in.
Perfect, perfect. And feel free to interject at any point. So,
Keep going. I
um,
will.
awesome. The There was a point where um I decided and I told my dad, I was like, Dad, I'm staying during the summer. And normally, after your first year, you go home, you work, you save money. Um, I had different intentions and stuff like that. So I stayed in like this home that had like a natural slant in everywhere. So everything was just like it was just a weird place and situation. My job at the time, I kid you not, was working the graveyard shift at a gas station. Now, the graveyard shift at a gas station, for those don't know, is from around 8 p.m. to about 5 or 6 a.m. And you might hear my dog in the background too, just kind of nibbling on a toy. So that's her. The job in itself was fairly boring, but the types of people that came in were an interesting crowd. So, was it safe? Probably. I Let's just say my guardian angels were working extra hard to ensure that I was safe. Um, it came to a point though where I didn't have much. I had a laptop and I had like a couple bucks to my name, but um, getting involved with the wrong people, some things happened where I had everything stolen. And I remember very vividly, like sitting in my home, my apartment, and just sitting in silence. I was like, wow, I have nothing. This was before like an iPhone or anything like that. Like truly like, wow, I really have nothing. What am I going to do? Like, this can't be my life. And so for me, I thought immediately to who in my life has their, can I swear on here, by the
Yeah,
way?
you can start. Yeah.
Okay. Who in my life has their shit together? And my father immediately popped up. Military background. I was like, yeah, I could do that. So I was like, I'm going to join the military. So I sobered up immediately. I called my father. Actually, I called my father first and I said, "Can you come get me? I'm ready to come home." And he said, "Yep." So he was there within like a couple hours, picked me up. I didn't look back. Left that job and everything, and I mean, made it back home. I told him what had gone on over that year and what my plan is for myself. And, as like a parent, like thinking about it now and thinking about what he was probably observing at that time, I think listening was probably the best thing that he could have ever done to allow me to talk, especially from like father to son, on like a man to man perspective as well, just like giving the space to just talk. And when I told him what it is that I wanted to do, and I said, you know, I'd like to. I know that you were in the Army Reserve, but I'm interested in the Air Force, and I'm interested in language, and I think I'd like to be an interpreter for the war. There was the war in Iraq, Afghanistan that was going on at that time. And I was like, there's salary, there's benefits to this. If I stay in it for X amount of time, like there's an opportunity for me to serve my country. And selfishly, I don't really like tell many people this, but it's like, hey, it's my second chance at life, and it's an opportunity to serve others. And if it ends, then it ends. I got a chance to like redeem myself and do better for others. So that was the That was the thought process behind it. Now, in order to get ready for that, you have to get ready for the physical fitness test, which you need to be on top of your game. So I went all the way and ahead to first sober up. And in order to do that, like going cold turkey with everything that I had gotten myself involved in, it really, the withdrawals are really, they took a toll on me. However, what kept me from collapsing and falling back was this is my second chance. I got it. I have to take advantage of this. I cannot let this chance slip up.
Let me
And
stop you really quick.
yeah, yeah.
What kind of drugs were you into back then?
It was, I'd say like probably the, like of choice, like cocaine was around, ecstasy was around at that time on a college campus. Um, Mainly those two. That was, and it was like an excessive amount in a very short span of time, and it was not healthy. But I'm happy to like have made it through that and be able to like close that chapter for sure.
Let me ask you, when you were in high school, did you get into any trouble?
No, not as much as like okay, that's a lie. I did get into trouble a lot at home simply because we would always like we would work on we try to figure out our dynamics. Like I don't want to tell you that I didn't do my homework, so I'd lie. And just like being a rebellious teenager and just like I want to go out, hang out with my friends. We're not getting into trouble, and we weren't. Um, and then the more that I feel like that restraint was put on me, the more I just was like, I just don't care anymore. I'm just gonna when I go to college, I'm just gonna let loose.
Yeah, I
And
guess what I'm trying to get at here was, given your father's military background, were you kind of in that situation where you were in high school where it was really hard to kind of open up the door for alcohol or drugs, and then
totally.
you get into college, and I mean, honestly, even if people are drinking in high school, they get into college, it's a whole other landscape anyway, just because you have so much freedom that you didn't have before.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm trying to uncover, maybe for you it was a little bit more extreme in the sense that I don't know if sheltered is the right word because I don't think you were sheltered, but you definitely you probably couldn't get into that kind of trouble and come home while you were in high school.
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
when it did become accessible and I realized how accessible it was full speed ahead. Did
Yeah.
not care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. So back to it.
Again,
Those are my questions right now.
guardian angels were working really hard back then to keep me safe. Thank thank God for them. Seriously. Um,
So now we're on to the physical.
yes. So the physical part to beat my craving and my extremism for like those needs. Everybody has like their way of recovery, and it's great. Good. When you figure it out, stick to it. Mine was I'm going to run until if the craving goes away. So it would be, I was also like I would smoke like a pack a week or a pack a day, depending on how stressed I was over just nothing. And that was also a very difficult thing to let go of. Um, but again, cold turkey means cold turkey, so everything is out the window.
How old
And
are you at this point?
I was like 19 years old.
Oh, wow, okay, got it. And you're
Yeah,
34 now. Okay, got it. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So I would run until these cravings would stop. And sometimes they go away like very quickly. Sometimes they wouldn't go away for like an hour or two. And I'd come home and like I'd nosebleeds. I don't know if you've ever heard of like tremors or anything like that, but it's like where your hands they just cannot stop shaking. I had sleep paralysis where my eyes would wake up, or I would wake up with, and I just see my body, but I'm not breathing, and I'd have to scream to like get myself to like wake up. A lot happened at 19.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that part is interesting to me because a lot of people don't have these awakenings by the time they turn 19. So the way that I'm hearing the story was that you had one really bad year of college where like you went all in on everything. Like again, like people
Everything.
usually kind of ease into this, right? It's like you have a couple, you start drinking, then maybe you smoke a little bit of weed, and then maybe some cocaine gets thrown in the mix, and then maybe you step it up a little bit further into some other thing. You went from, high school to just,
I
getting it
went
all out of
from
your system in a
0 to
year.
100 real quick.
Yeah, you got it all out of your system in 1 year, and then all of a sudden, and even what's even surprised me further is, like, the fact that you were able to go clean as quickly as you were. I mean,
I mean,
that part is, you weren't even 21 yet.
yeah, it took a lot. It took a lot of willpower, and it's about to get more interesting
All
here.
right, yeah,
All
keep
right.
going, keep going.
So the cool part about this is I got my body into a physically good state, and my mind was like on the right path as well. Like, I got this. Um, I was about a week away from signing the papers for the Air Force. I was like, this is it. I got it. Like, my life is set. And if, like, if I die, like, it's fine. Like, whomever, I can impact along the way in a positive way, like, I got this. It's good. My parents are divorced, and my mother lived in Chicago at the time. And so I didn't really get to grow up with my mom. I have a wonderful stepmom who, took on two kids at a very like two kids that were very young, and she did her very best to like raise my sister and I coming up. Um, the but the way that it worked out, my father had custody, and I only got to see my mom like once every other week, which is like, hey, like that's sometimes how it works. She came into the mix knowing that that was coming up, and said, you are my only son. Uh, let's try to like rethink this a little bit. If you really want to do this, that's fine. But come to Chicago first. You like to dance in high school. Just come out here and just see what it looks like out here. And if you like it, you can live with me, but you need to get a job. Like, that's the only thing. And so I was like, all right, I'll humor this. I'll give it a shot. So I flew out there for a couple days, a week or something like that. And I remember experiencing the city for the first time. And I was like, oh, like, I remember my mom had like a rooftop in like Lincoln Park. Um, she was in a studio, but the nicest part was the rooftop. And I just remember it was nighttime, and then all the lights, the echo of the city, the vibration that everything and everyone just put off, like it was just screaming in a positive way, like this is your next step. Like, you need to be here. You don't understand. You need to be here. And I was like, okay. I, I'll do it. And I realized too, like, okay, if this doesn't work out, like I could go back to the military. Like, I'll just do it
Yeah.
because yeah.
Wh
And
what did your dad think throughout all this?
so the one amazing thing, I mean, my father is amazing, but there's one thing that I really appreciate from him so much was that he gave me the opportunity to try, to fail, to succeed, and to just learn
So
because
important.
it is so important, I think, I mean, I'm not a parent yet, but I feel like it's so important for parents to understand that when your kids like as they're growing, if you give them the opportunity to learn through situations, you could talk about the situation afterwards, like, what went wrong? Like, what would you do differently?
Yeah, allowing
Um,
them to fall forward, right?
yeah,
And kinda
he said,
figure out. Yeah.
yeah, he said, I'm going to support you no matter what you do. And if you really want to try dance, um, you have my blessing. Give it a shot. Go for it. And I didn't look back. I packed up two suitcases. That was everything I had. And I flew out and I lived in a studio apartment with my mom for the first time in my life. I got to, yeah, I slept on like a little, it was like a little mini couch. Um, so, but hey, it worked, and we like slowly built it up from there. And I got a job working at a place at a retail store called Forever 21. I worked in the yep, I worked in the stock room there. So I was just unpacking boxes. I was lifting,
That's
and
crazy.
yeah, so the boxes were heavy. I kid you not. It was a couple of us guys back in the store, just like we would just open up everything. We'd have to like put excuse me, put like little safety tags on everything, and it was just a lot. And then to make more money, because I had to like figure this out. I got another job working at Abercrombie and Fitch across the hall of the mall. So I would do the stock room in the morning, and then I'd go across the hall.
Were you a model for them?
Exactly. And I'd
Oh,
stand
geez.
at the front, and I would just talk to people as they come in and just give the weirdest freaking
Oh, geez. So you were that guy.
captions.
You were that
Yep.
guy.
I was that guy.
All
Yep.
right. Wait, so you went from seeing your mom once a week to now living with your mom.
Yes. Yeah.
When did your parents get divorced?
They got divorced when I was little, like
You were
five or
young.
six. Yeah.
Got it. Did that impact you in any way emotionally over like the course of your childhood?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
like that's for kids, it's you see everything, you
Yeah.
remember. It's like an imprinted memory that's like stamped in your brain.
Yeah.
And it's like you remember these little scenes, like, and you question those scenes over and over, like, why were they acting that way? Was it because of me? And it took a little bit. I actually talked to my dad about it, like, in high school, during high school, because I remember I would just ask him about these certain things. And what I loved about it was he was just willing to talk. It took a while for him to open up about things, but now him and I have we just shoot the shit all the time now. I tell you what, like, parents aren't really meant to be your friend. They're meant to be your parent. But as you continue to grow together through being like parent child, you do kind of form like a different bond than a friendship. It's more of just like you I don't know, it's
They
more than
become
being
your
a friend.
they become your person, right? Like they're
Yeah.
the person that you could really lean on. That no one knows you better,
Yep.
right? Like um I don't want to make a generalization because everyone's circumstance is different, but like they made you, they molded you, like right? They
Totally.
they
Yep.
carved you into the person that you are for better or for worse. And honestly, even if they broke you, they're probably one of the only people that might know how to fix you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Now
And
I got my ass handed to me as a
yeah,
kid
and
growing
and
up.
and, and
Let's
so
just be clear about that.
he,
It was the I got
yeah,
yeah.
no, I hear that. I mean, you're right. Like I could speak about it from the parental lens, and I agree with you. Like, yeah, like it's a different kind of relationship, but as you get older and as you go through the different things in life, and if you remain on the journey together, or even if you bring them back into your journey, as you get older, that gap starts to kind of bridge, and you are building this bond that like I think is incredibly special.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm able to do that with my mom, my stepmom, and my dad, like all on like different like paths and stuff like that. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. I encourage everybody to try and do that.
Awesome. So now let's go back to Chicago and
So,
dancing in Chicago.
yep. So I had to start somewhere. So once I started to get some money, because I realized you have to pay for dance classes and stuff like that, I was like, okay, dance classes in Chicago. Joffrey Ballet came up, which is a very prestigious ballet school. And within the school, they have different branches of dance, like jazz, like hip hop. And for me, like, I loved hip hop, but also at the same time, I was like, I mean, as a straight male going into the dance world, it is a wonderful thing because you get to meet all
All
the
these girls.
girls.
I mean, we're
Yep.
gonna go there. I'm gonna ask you about that, but let's.
Oh, it was the greatest thing in the world. Are you kidding
Yeah.
me? No, it was the best freaking thing in the world. I loved it.
I mean, like, yeah,
um,
I mean, look, it's gotta be like, right? You're pretty much taking your pick out there because you're probably spending a lot of time with these girls, and you
Plus, I'm
probably don't
getting
have,
into shape too,
you're
and I'm
getting
like,
you're in great shape, and you probably don't have much competition.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. But from there, I would just show up. I didn't really know much at the time, so I just show up, basketball shorts, ankle socks, baggy t-shirt, to ballet classes, and I would just go to the teacher, and not like in a cocky way, but I would just be like, "Hey, I'm Julian. I really want to learn. So can you tell me what to do, please?" And I don't get this. And little did I know, like, they're foaming at the mouth for this type of like attention. Like, yes, let me help you. it ended up being just like a very wonderful blessing. They would let me stay and watch the advance, like the actual company members, like practice and train. I was like, I don't even know what a Batman is supposed to look like. Y'all need to, can I just see somebody actually do this? And so they would just let me chill. From there, it elevated to like, okay, I really like this. I need more experience, but I need like schooling for this. So I wasn't good enough to get into the Joffrey school. So I looked at my next option, which was a college, and that's when Columbia College Chicago came into play. And they have a very in my opinion, it was a very more modern based school. So there's modern dance, there's ballet dance, there's contemporary dance, there's different styles of dance that um, have like evolved from ballet, from hip hop, from jazz. It's really cool. So I went to Columbia College Chicago. I auditioned, and it was the most nerve-wracking thing ever. Like I was flopping all over the place and just looking like an idiot. And I was like, if I don't get in, like, what does this mean? And leading up to this, like, when you're just like, I'm going to manifest this. I can do this. I'm like, I can do anything I set my mind to. I've made it this far. This is my second chance at life. Like nothing can stop me. And this was before like before Tony Robbins was a thing, before like all this like public speaking thing, like, like you can think this through. The Secret was probably the one thing I had access to. Um, but this was all stuff that I developed on my own time of like, I can do this. I can get through this. Like, so I was just, before I go to bed every night, I'd say, I'm going to get into this college. I'm going to join their dance program and it's going to be great. I'm going to learn so much from this that it'll lead me to my next thing. And I just kept saying that every night, and every night. And I got into the program. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in college again. Like, what is happening? And I was like, and I looked at the dollar amount too. And I was like, I have to pay for all of this. So I'm like, I'm working my tail off. I saved all my money and I'm able to pay for my first year of college. And there I'm able to learn technique from really, in my opinion, just very all the dance teachers that were there at the time. And like, and for any of them that happen to hear this, like I can't tell them thank you enough. I got to learn ballet, contemporary dance, modern dance. There was like Cunningham technique. There was Horton technique. There was my favorite class of all time was African dance, and his name was Malik Kamara, and he was just the coolest guy in the world, and he just became like a mentor to me in a way. There were a couple other fellows within the dance world at that time that were also like guiding me through at that time, but that was probably the strongest figure within the school that was like I would talk to them, I'd ask for guidance, like truly really trying to understand this route. Um, During that year, I got into a dance company, and it was called Chicago Dance Crash. And Chicago Dance Crash is a fusion-based contemporary company that combines capoeira and contemporary dance. So I got to like channel this like hip hop break dancer that I've always wanted to become and train. And I got to learn contemporary dance, modern dance. Um, and I realized, wow, like I'm in college for my first year, but I got my first dance company all of a sudden. And it was no, that's supposed to be a thumbs up. I don't know why it's
I
doing
don't know
that, but
where I don't know where those are coming from.
oh snap.
I'm not doing anything. I don't know where those are coming from. I saw them.
If this is the AI thing that I think it is, maybe if I do this, it's a high five.
It might be. Who knows? I don't.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. All good.
They're all watching us. For anyone listening out there, there were a few thumbs up just rolling up and down the screen, and then we saw a thumbs down. So we don't even know
Yeah,
where that
all of
came
a
from.
sudden.
Yeah.
Um, so I realized like, oh wow, I'm like kind of already doing what I set out to do, but it happened very quickly. And like I started to after that year, I was doing it for free. I started to get paid just a little bit, nice little chunk of change from it. I was like, wow, I'm getting paid to dance now all of a sudden, and I'm still in college. And then I was like, well, I'm getting experience. I'm doing auditions now. Well, this is a lot of money I'm forking up right now. There's got to be like another option to like learn for a more affordable price. So there was another studio called Lucanti Dance Studio, which was attached to Hubbard Street Dance, which is a phenomenal company. Unfortunately, they're not around anymore, given like COVID and just everything that kind of escalated from there. The but from there I got in, and that was like think of like Joffrey, but in the contemporary dance side. So I was able to get into their work study program, get to take classes for free and build and like work with some of these amazing choreographers at the time. So from the arts community, hearing anybody hearing that, that's like gold. So I took advantage of that. I left college because I realized, well, I'm getting the training for a more affordable price. I could save a couple $10,000 right here and like invest it in else and other things. So further that the training there, and I kept getting better and better and better. I kept opportunities started coming more and more. And just the more and more that I trained, the more and more that things showed up. So I just kind of, I'll tackle that message again later on, but just the more that I trained, the more things showed up. Um, the Then there came a point where there was somebody that I was with at the time. They had a more prestigious background in dance and they wanted more in New York. So she had posed it to me like, hey, I'm moving to New York. You can come or you don't. Like, it's all good. I was like, all right, but I'm going to go there on my terms. So when I went out there, I was like, okay, I'm going to go out here, move to New York City. I need to be crazy with my goals. So moving to New York City, I set I set a massive, impossible goal for myself. I told myself that, okay, I have no college degree. I'm a two-time dropout with an extensive background in dance, and also just for showing up on to things, I've gotten things. Um, Here's what we're gonna do. So I said I'm gonna book a show, and it's gonna be salaried, and it's gonna be on or off Broadway. That's like union or non-union in like dancer world terms. There's a little other more meanings behind that, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. So those two things, and I said, then the show has to be in Times Square for me to say I made it as a dancer. I moved to New York uh, on that goal. So I left everything that I had built in Chicago, which I had my life set for me, and I told myself and my friends there at the time, I was like, guys, this is too easy. I'm sorry. Like, I did not just have a second chance at life to come in here and just like coast. As weird as it sounds, like I just like I need to suffer a little bit more. Like this it can't be this easy to succeed. So I was like, I need to go do this. And if I fail, I'll come back. So I go out there, I sell everything, two suitcases. That's it. Again, I go to New York, paying like 300 rent in Kensington, New York, which is, for those that don't know, that's the last stop on the F line, church. And it takes about an hour, 15, maybe 30 minutes, hour 30 to get from there into the city.
What
So,
what what borough is that in?
somewhere in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I've never even heard of it. So, like, I'm like, I've been in the city now for 15 years, and I'm like, I've never even heard of
Yep.
that part of
Last
Brooklyn.
stop on the F line.
Got it, got it. Let me before we go on, I just quick questions here.
Yes.
Um, just for educational purposes for the audience, what is a dance company?
A dance company is you could call it like a non-for-profit. They have like an actual title held. They are able to, I don't know if sanction is the right word, but they're able to set pieces of choreography or movement at theaters that they apply to. So there are spaces where dance companies can share their work, and as the company grows, the company is going to be needing investors and you know and stuff like that. So they can get, based off of ticket sales, based off of like um, audience, based off of like how the community is circulating around that company. They can make money in those ways. So there was not a lot of money in that department.
And in terms of prestige in the dancing world, like here in New York, like, is it Broadway? Is that where you wanna be? Like, if you're a dancer in New York?
I think, yeah, I think it depends because there's musical theater and there's contemporary or modern dance or there's like two distinct, there's musical theater, there's um, dance contemporary companies. There's like a couple of branches. And then my apologies, because I know I was about to get eaten up for this one. There's also commercial work too, which is like your music videos, your artists, your VMAs, your award shows, like the dancers that you see on like um,
Yeah, like
the
who
Super Bowl, like
yeah.
all this stuff. Those are commercial dancers, commercial musical theater. Those are your two primary ones.
Got it, got it. I mean, there's so much I could ask you about these, like, more so because, like, if you're not in this field, like, you have no idea, w ho which of these are making living wages and which of these are not. Like, for instance, like, there's probably a huge misconception around, like, Nick City dancers or, like, the dancers for the Nets, and I don't believe they really make any money at all, my
Right.
understanding, right?
Yeah.
And I think from the outside, you're like, "Oh, like, this is probably where you wanna be," and correct me if I'm wrong, is that where you wanna be to get noticed for those higher paying jobs?
I mean, yes and no. Usually it's based off of like how good you are at networking, your reel, as it's called, like it's like of your what your
Oh, yeah.
dancing reel looks like
Yep.
and who you've like who you know.
Who you know. Got
Really,
it.
really it's like
Yeah,
be
I
there
feel
at
like
the
that's
right
gotta
time
be
at
a
the
big
right
part of it
place.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's what led to my next thing.
if you know me, you know that I like to look good and feel good. As an endurance athlete who trains daily, I need my wardrobe to fit the mold. Roan creates performance driven clothing for your active lifestyle. Each piece is designed for versatility and made with integrity to outfit you for an active life lived on your own terms. The Roan promise is to help you move forever forward. Use code MILE40 for 20% off online and in store for new customers only. Visit www.rhone.com, that's Rhone spelled RHONE, or find your local store and move forever forward starting today. And then my last question for you now is going to be a little bit more like personal and digging in here. Like, what did you wanna be when you grow up? Like, when you were younger and you were being asked this question because, like, as I listened to your story, you were really going with the flow. You went to college for a year, it didn't work out, and then you were gonna join the military, and then your mother called you, and, yeah, you had an interest in dancing, but, like, at any point during this period, in the back of your mind, was your vision, "I'm gonna be a dancer when I grow up," or was that something that you kind of really leaned into when you realized how good you were at dancing?
I'll say no. I didn't know. I mean, even to this day, like it's still like a question in the back of my head. But what I do know is that life is short, um, and it's beautiful, and it's so amazing. And if you take care of it, if you treat it well, it will treat you well in return. Um, for me, like like although we kind of like circled back and said like 19 seemed like a pivotal moment for me in my life, it happened at a younger stage in my life. Like, I guess I forgot to like kind of talk about it too, but like, hey, for kids growing up, you deal with all kinds of things, and you don't realize that you can talk to your parents about things that make you question things. Like, depression was a huge thing in my life, and I didn't even know it existed. I was such a pessimistic kid growing up that I just like it was so easy to just say like I hate my life. Like this is just the worst thing ever. And in all honesty, like I would just constantly question whether just being alive or not was a thing. I even, you know, again, like full transparency of at a young age, I tried to end it all, you know, and I later would talk to my family about it too. And but it was something there during those moments was like an awakening for me, and it was almost like a hand coming in and just kind of saying like you have so much to give to this world, you don't realize how amazing you are, and you just need to trust yourself, and you need to trust this journey that you're on. So allow yourself to go through this, but you can get past this. And in that moment, my thought process changed. And I was like, well, if it's so easy to think so negatively, I'm going to try and think positively about things. And it didn't become like a fake it till you make it. It was more like, well, why am I happy? And I'm a middle schooler. I was a middle schooler back then, uh, questioning these things, like having these thoughts and questions happen for myself. And I would just like be like, all right, well, I don't know. I know smiling can kind of like change my mood a little bit. So I'll smile. I'll I'll sit down at lunch with some random kid I don't even know and just like strike up a conversation. Like I was trying for everything to try and beat out these, you know, this thing that I was feeling, where I was like it'd be so easy to just, you know, just let go of everything, you know. And it's what the crazy part is it never does go away, but you have systems in place that allow you to acknowledge it and you work through it no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you for sharing that and for letting us in on that. And uh, you know, I don't know you too well personally. I know that, we have a lot of mutual friends and that we've run in a lot of mutual circles. But in my few interactions with you, I noticed that there's something different about you in a positive way in terms of like how you interact with others. And I always felt like if I got to know you, I would feel like the reason why you're different in that sense has to be because of how you've gone through navigating life, and the things that life has thrown at you. And so, on a personal note, I really appreciate this because this gives me a little bit more color into who you are. Um, so now let's go back to New York. We are. You moved to New York, you set your goals, pretty lofty goals there. Then where are we going from there?
So there, also just for time too, I want to make sure I get like the meat of the story out. Um, for fast forward about 2 to 3 years of like grinding, hustling, like showing up to things, getting rejected over and over and over again. I ended up booking like solid work, but I still wanted those three things. Like I wanted that. My one of my best friends um was battling cancer, and he unfortunately didn't make it. And he was just like a huge pillar in my life at the time. That during that time I started to get into fitness, and we would speak regularly about like, you know, what fitness could do, and like uh even just like strength training for someone like him when he beats it and stuff like that. We were trying to be as positive as we could. He had passed, and um 2 days later I get an email, and the email is, hey, um we have this show that you auditioned for called Queen of the Night, and we need you to learn the role in 2 days. It's a swing role, meaning swing means it could filter into any set role. So it could be like I could be like the main person one day or a background person for this. So you have to know everything. So I was like, okay, sweet. What are the details? So I'm scrolling down, I'm looking, and all of a sudden I see, oh, here's my salary. I was like, oh, wow, that's actually like a lot higher than I thought. And I was like, well, okay, oh, it's off Broadway. Like off Broadway, meaning like the type of contract it is. I was like, oh, cool. And then I get down a little bit further. I'm like, man, that's in Times Square. And I was like, I lost it. So after just like,
Wow.
I kid you not, after losing a really, really like amazing friend in my life, 2 days later to then receiving an email with, I made it, I realized then and there, I was like, I figured it out. I could do this. I need to go crazier with my goal next time, I guess. Maybe I should have asked for a higher dollar amount this time. So I go in and I learned the show, and it actually ended up being a show where I could heal, because it was a choose your own adventure kind of a show. It's not around anymore, unfortunately, but it was a show that changed many lives in a very positive way. Um, Man, that it just allowed me to heal too, and also just like reintegrate and get better at communicating with people, because I was able to become a different character in that show and like talk to people, break the third wall. And it was also an opportunity for people to share their darkest times, their moments of where they need to heal. And it was just such a beautiful show. Um, so that had happened, and we're about like maybe like 6 months to a year into doing it. And I'm looking around and I'm like, wow, like, I made it. Like I'm still in that buzz. And I'm looking around at my castmates. I love my castmates to death, but I was also like, they weren't as happy as I was, the fact that they were here doing a show. Like, we made it, we're doing it. And it was like, oh my gosh, wow, it's like you're still going to be wanting more no matter what. I was like, well, I already made like the impossible goal happen. What more could I do in this department? Like I'm suffering so much. Like I need something else. Um, I had like a bad breakup at that time, so I was like, man, I just really need to hit something. And so I run into my one of my dearest friends, Jaws, who if you don't know her, she's an amazing human being, just like phenomenal. Big reason why I'm in the field that I am today. Um, she said, "Hey, you might like boxing. Come check this out." I was like, "Oh, where is it?" And she was like, "It's called Shadow Box." And I took her class, and the moment I hit the bag was the moment I said, "I need to be here. Yep, this is my next thing." And so I was able to, once I exited dance, I was able to actually say like, I'm happy to close this door. So I closed the door for dance politely, respectfully. I exited, and I didn't look back. I was like, wow, like I'm gonna be an instructor at this place because I really love it here so much. So I just kept showing up. I was like, I have no boxing experience. This is like, geez, 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago. Um, and I'm like, I'm showing up and I'm like, I want to be here. I want to be here. And they give me a chance. Again, like the audition friends and family class, it wasn't pretty, but we got it. I got the job. And from there, it became, okay, if I'm going to, again, like if I'm going to have any respect for myself and have others respect me in this industry, I really need to be in it. So I said to myself, I was like, I need to box. Like I need to like train to fight. And so a friend of mine, Jeremiah, introduced me to by far my second family. I mean, like they're amazing. Jeremiah introduced me to John Guzman at Gleason's gym, and I got to go to the original Gleason's gym before they changed it over to the newer location that it is at now. So Gleason's Gym in Dumbo, Brooklyn, for those who don't know, is one of the most prestige boxing gyms you will ever find in the United States. Obviously on the East Coast,
Love it.
specifically in New York City. All right.
Love it.
Everybody has their own whatever
Huh.
opinions, blah, blah, blah. Fight me. All right.
Huh.
But don't.
Huh.
So I got in, and John, his brothers Charlie and Joselito, all like became like my family. Like I was still like kind of going through like healing from losing my friend to, trying to like make it and like figure it out. Like, is this really for me? And I remember I was boxing, and I just started training with the Guzmans. We'll just put it that at that. Um, I just wanted to get better at it. So I just show up as often as I could. I started to turn it into like a Monday to Friday kind of a thing while balancing a full-time schedule teaching at Shadowbox. And I loved it. And it just became my life. Like I was just like I like woke up, box, went to sleep, I boxed in my sleep. Like it was everything. Eventually it turned into, okay, I think I'd like to fight. And this is where I got to make it my own story again. And I said to myself, all right, this is what's going to happen. First off, I got my blessings from my coach, which for anybody that's looking to pursue any type of endeavor in this realm, you have to have the backing from your coach. You can't just go in, say, I'm a fighter, I'm going to be a world champion. Like I've heard that speech so many times that it's just like, okay, like that's cute, but you really need to own it. Like, do you have a team backing you? Have you looked into this at all? Like, okay, cool. What are you gonna do about it? So I made sure that I did everything that I needed to do. Like I got my boxing book. It's like your passport, and you have to renew it every year. So I was so excited when I got it. I was like, "Yay, I got my book." I was like, "Now what do I do?" And they're like, "You got to get someone to fight you." I was like, "Oh, okay." So Gleason's got me set up on one of their shows, as they call it, and it was like maybe like I guess like so I started training for it. I'll call it like training camp or training for war, literally. So I'm getting into like a different mindset. And also, John Guzman is for those that don't know, he's a two-time world Pan American champion. And he's a world title holder as well. Sorry, John, I'm not going to get all your titles right. You have so many, but he's basically like as a kid growing up in the Dominican Republic, him and his brothers, they made it happen. And they're literally your like amazing story. And so they've been just huge, huge like pillars in my life that have made me a better man in that realm. Um, so they helped me set a date, get into a fight, and I told myself getting into this, I was like, all right, three things are gonna happen here. I was like, I got to go crazy with this too, because I really want to win, but it's got to be on my terms. So I was like, all right, I'm going to fight and I'm going to win, but the fight's going to go the distance. And the person that I'm fighting is some crazy looking you know what, Mike Tyson looking guy, and he's going to scare the crap out of me. But I'm going to take charge and I'm going to win this. Lo and behold, I get paired up with a guy that has plenty of fights under his belt. There's videos of him knocking people out. And I'm like, what did you guys do? Why did you pair me up with this guy? Like, and they're like, you got this. You could do this. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. And I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I guess he is kind of like Mike Tyson in a way, like how he looks, like he's built really like brutal, like, yeah. And like I weigh 170, 175 now. I was
Yeah.
135, like
Oh, wow.
140. Oh yeah. So the weight class that I was in was 141. And also anybody looking at this video or listening to this, make sure if you're gonna fight, ask if there's a weight allowance. And that means you can be 8 pounds up or 8 pounds below. Dang, they gave an 8 pound allowance. So my guy showed up 8 pounds heavier
Oof.
than me.
I can't
I was like,
imagine you 40 pounds lighter than you are right now.
I know, right? I feel so good though. I feel
Were you
so
just were
good.
you just skinny?
I was very skinny, and I was only calisthenics, so only body weight for my strength training.
So you're probably
And
pretty you're
for
probably pretty ripped when you were like dancing, right?
I was very ripped, but
Yeah.
I was like very lanky, very skinny.
Got got
Um,
it.
yeah. So we get to the point now, leading up to the fight. It happens, and it's on YouTube as well. And um, I tell myself like, all right, this is what's going to happen. All right, he's going to actually come swinging at me because he knows I'm a green fighter. Green meaning like still new to this game, and so he was going for the kill right away. And I'm like, I could die here. Like this could happen. But I kept telling myself, I was like, remember where you started. Remember where you came from. Like get into that mentality. Like see red. Like literally see red. Let's go. And every that saying, see, when you see red, it's like a different game. All the colors that were red stood out bright, and all I saw was him and red, and I just kept going forward. I took a lot of nasty hits during that game or during that match, um, but I didn't back down. I just did not let up, and I would just keep throwing punches back. I'd keep make sure that the ref saw that I was still moving. Um, After the first round let up, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, yelled out, "He blew his load. He's done. He's over
Ah,
with." And everybody laughed, and I was like, "You're right. He did." And so I sat down. I'm like kind of getting cocky a little bit, but I'm like trying to calm down. And I'm like, oh man, here we go. But my coach, he was like, okay, you need to feint your jab a little bit more. You got to get them to bite a little bit. So I was like, okay, okay. And feint in boxing terms, meaning like you get your opponent, like you throw a fake punch, you get them to flinch. So I started leading with that, and I took over the match. In all honesty, I think I lost the first round, but I won the last two rounds. And in terms of effort, energy, output, I left it all out there. We made it to the end, and I just like, again, like when I'm in a position where I want something, like I will be a menace to anyone and everyone in my path. Like I am just like literally like like the Air Force. Like okay, I'll go out there, I'll learn language, and if I die, I die. Like it's like that extreme for me that I don't mind realizing and telling myself like this could be it right here. Let's go. Like come on, what are you gonna do, Julian? What are you gonna do? So I just was like, if I die after this, like great, like let's go out swinging. I don't care. I want to make this guy regret ever fighting me. Like and I ended up winning. They raised my hands, like it's forever on YouTube.
is there
And
a picture? I mean, I guess I got to find it on YouTube now.
yeah, yeah. And huge props to the guy that I fought too. Like he gave me the best ass whooping of my life. And he also just made me like really truly appreciate the sport and have so much respect for it. So again, shout out to that fella.
That's
Um
awesome.
yeah, and I realized like, oh my gosh, I just did the crazy unthinkable goals and my big three again. I was like, I need to come up with something else.
Huh.
And so it led to fast forward. I went from Shadowbox to Rumble, and then during Rumble, I signed up for the New York City Marathon. There was an opportunity to actually, I got the opportunity to race for a charity called the Pink Agenda. It money. It's a charity that raises and supports, supports those that are research towards breast cancer, and having family that have been affected by cancer immensely. I've always wanted to give back in some way. So I trained for the New York City Marathon. um, I didn't really like set a goal for it. It was just more of like, I'm going to just do this. uh, Little did I know how intense the New York City Marathon is, and keep in mind I hadn't run a half.
Oh
I
wow.
Yeah, yeah, so like I was literally the rare like sheep, like yeah, you're gonna
What
this.
year was this?
This was pre-COVID, like maybe 2018, maybe.
Okay. Okay.
Um, yeah, so I do it, and I'm running with my friends, and they're pretty seasoned runners. So I'm like running with them, and we get to the half marathon point, the halfway point, and I'm looking at the time, and I'm like, wow, we're really moving out. And then me being the dumbass that I was, I didn't realize if you stop, things like kind of like shut down a little bit. I
Yep.
had to go to the bathroom because I drank a lot of coffee in the
Oh
morning.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh.
So mile 16 rolls around, and I start like, like I kind of fall back a little bit, and I'm going at my own pace. I'm by myself. And all of a sudden I'm like, uh-oh. And I'm realizing like, oh, this is the wall that everybody's talking about. I'm like, and I was telling myself earlier, I was like, mile 20, 21, I'll hit my wall. Nope, it happened at mile 16. And I was at like a hour 45, almost 2 hours at that point. I was like, okay, yeah, like I got this. No, everything shut down. And I kid you not, it was the most humbling experience, but I was so fascinated with it at the same time that I was like, I cannot stop, otherwise I am going to forever hate myself. So I was like getting into that like war mentality. So I would grab Twizzlers, I'd grab all the biofreeze I could, and I'd just be like, just spray me as I'm running. So I'm like grabbing at food and running and going. And I finish it after like 5.5, 6 hours. So what became like, oh, like I'm on pace, be like under 4 hours, became a 6 hour race. And I was just dead. I was dead. But I did it. I did it. And it was wonderful.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, yeah, I mean the marathon stories, it's just everyone out when they're out there and it's their first time and what they go through and the bathroom incident, like people don't know if they don't
They
know.
don't. Yeah. Those now people like stopping people for hugs. I'm like, don't stop them. No,
Yeah.
whatever you do, you don't understand.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I
Is this
mean,
your first marathon, sir?
yeah, no, I mean, yeah, no, I mean, now I'm about to run marathon number 10. And
Wow.
for me, like, you know, I know, like, I wake up super early. I get a lot of alone time in the morning. You wanna you wanna get everything out of your body, not to be graphic for the listeners out there, but you
No,
wanna,
no, you need
yeah,
to get it all out.
you gotta
Get
get
it
it
out.
all out. Yeah. But yeah, man. All right, so now you make it through the finish line. That was back just a little bit before COVID. Um, where has life taken you since then? I mean,
Life
like, yeah, go ahead.
I'll keep it short too, because
Yeah,
I do have to work soon
yeah,
too. But
yeah.
the life has taken me on so many wonderful paths, and every single person that's impacted me from my Rumble days to uh, I was like I had the true blessing of being able to work with Google and work on their digital platform and help build that out for them so that Exos could have like a better understanding for their online coaches. We did. Uh, I was able to work with the team over at Mayweather Boxing in Tribeca and help build out that location. And now what it's led to is me pursuing my own brand, my own identity, my own like what I want Julian to become next. And I feel like it's kind of like a compilation of everything like that I've encountered so far. So far I've taken my love and passion for boxing and trying to just make it accessible in my own way, which has been super fun. I've also found like a true love for strength training. And anybody listening to this, y'all got to lift some weights,
Hmm.
lift heavy. Just it's
Right.
you're not going to be some big bulky, Hulkamaniac or anything like that. Like that is a lot of extra discipline to get there, but you will feel so much better having added that into your life that is where my life is starting to take me and understanding my love for strength training. I see myself benefiting athletes to some degree. I think I'd love to like be in the professional setting and on the strength training side and just like have like input and maybe help other athletes like become stronger or overcome injury or like I have this already this like this like I guess we could call it like a Mamba Kobe Bryant mentality,
Yeah,
of like I like if I see it I'm going to get it.
yeah.
You know, I feel like I can bring a lot to the table and I feel like I could also learn from that world too and again thinking of the next craziest thing that I could do.
No, I appreciate that insight, man. And to round things up here, the beginning of the episode, toward the middle of the episode, in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm going to name this episode Two Suitcases because you talked about having two
Mm,
suitcases when you left your dad's to go to Chicago. And then when you left Chicago to go to New York. And obviously, a lot has happened since you've been in New York. And to your point, right, like you're now molding into Julian, like the brand of Julian,
hmm
the offering of Julian and what it is that Julian is going to make of himself to impact this community that has really shaped him in these past couple of years. And the beauty of New York is there's such an intertwining of industries and worlds and people, and you're not far away from where you were with, even though you said you left dancing behind. y- I have no doubt that there are people in the industry who are now coming across your path in the new world that you're in now. And so I just want to say thank you, man. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for giving us the insight. Thank you for being vulnerable and for opening up
Yeah,
and
of course.
letting us into your world and your rough patches, and letting us know that it's okay to be figuring it out.
That's
And
right.
it's okay to, really embrace, just how short and sweet life is. And so I just want to say thank you for that.
Yes, be sure. Thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my story and just again just be able to just from man to man just talk.
You got it, bro.
I
Anytime.
think yeah. I mean, hey, I'd love to hear your story too. We got to have a part two.
Of course, I'm always
If you have me, if you have me.
I'm always down for it, man. No, I just want to say thank you again. Lots of great takeaways here, and we'll definitely be connecting soon.
Perfect.